Go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. Grant, would you lead us in prayer, please?
Heavenly Father, we want to take this moment to pause and thank you for all that we're grateful for. Lord, we want to take special time to thank families in this county this week that have suffered great tragedies, and we pray for them and let them know that this community still stands behind them each and every day. We pray for the important decisions laid before us, the things that we're doing for the public, for the people, that we can continue to operate with the integrity that I know that we do on a daily basis. We pray for this board, for the employees of this county, for the citizens we serve. We pray for the forgiveness of our sins and our shortcomings, and pray that you'll keep us safe as we leave this place today. In Christ's name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would you do the roll call, thank you, please?
Yes. Commissioner Toller?
Here.
Commissioner Foster?
Here.
Commissioner Miller?
Here.
Commissioner Gould?
Here.
And Commissioner Pitts.
Here.
Having a quorum, I'll call the meeting to order. New business, item A, 2021 budget discussion. So we'll let our budget person
Okay,
go to it.
all right, so, basically what I've done is compiled the budget, went through revenue projections first, and we can look at all of those in a minute and kind of talk about the budget over here, but, any new requests that came in are on this sheet. It's similar to what we did last year. The options are here. We'll go through, we'll say yes, no, whatever you want to put in here. Actually change these to no's. And then we will see what you want to approve, and then I'll put that stuff in the budget. So I guess we'll just start on in with the ambulance department. And Grant's here in case you have any questions. And he can kind of explain his request. But I think that it is time to replace the carpet in the quarters. Kind of because it's time to replace, and also I'm thinking about replacing it with hardwood floors, which is better for cleaning and with COVID and everything like that. So am I missing anything on that one?
Yeah, I don't believe it would be hardwood, but I think it would be something that would be able to be mopped and kept sanitized, because carpet is, with everything we think about what our staff does daily, is not a good idea.
So we have that one. Do you mind just run through them and then we come back and look at all of them? I mean, or you just want to tell me, yes, you're good with that?
I'm going to, unless somebody's got a big discussion about any one of them, we can mark them as we go, I would think.
Okay. All right. Well, I will change them and then you can, we can adjust it if we need to. So the second one is also for the ambulance department. And Grant, I'm going to let you explain this because they're having an issue, I think, with mud and stuff. And it's actually not concrete. It's for a gate.
Oh, you're talking about the east end of our building?
Yeah.
There was a patio that was poured several years ago off the kitchen door there, and we wound up, when we poured that, we had put a privacy fence in, and it pushes the employees walking around that fence at the other end, which is a path on top of that hill. That's pretty good grade if you think about the residence that's next door. It's just a worn down mud path during parts of the year, and what we had discussed, and I had discussed with Adam, was if we took the end of that fence and converted that, put a gate on this end of the fence, nobody'd be walking along the crown of that hill in the snow, the ice, the rain, where they could go down that hill and tracking everything into the quarters, because they could step directly from the chad that we had out in front of the building there onto that patio and then into the back door. So it's just saving some mess, a little bit safer to do it this way. We have a tree here that's growing into the power line that we're going to take down. Another thing that I discussed with Adam, that we can get together and help with that project to save money, but we're just trying to get that where it's, safer and keeps quarters cleaner and things like that. It's something that's really needed to be done for years.
So if the trees in the power line, will the power company come take it down?
That is a possibility that they might. I hadn't thought of that, but it is definitely in the power line, and it's also getting real narrow flagpole, which we have to do some repairs on this year too. But, and I point out to the board, that's the reason that our flag's not flying, is we're having some mechanical issues with that pole. And I can get it up there, but I can't get it to half mast. And if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. So we've got some repair to do there as well.
So that's what that is, and their estimate for that is $500, so.
I say yes. Good with it. Yeah.
All right. The next one is for radios for the ambulance department. If you remember last year, we budgeted and paid for a new radio system for the sheriff. The deputies got the new radios that will work with the frequencies, is that the right term?
Yeah, well, it's the new digital system.
The new digital system. We didn't get them for the ambulance department at the time because actually I think they're in the final phase of finishing the install. So then we need to get the ambulance department the same kind of radio so that they can run digitally. So this is for, I hope I'm not switching these, I think it's for 4 mobile units and 5 packs. Is that the right way? Don't have them flopped? Okay. So the 4 mobile units are $600 a piece, the 5 packs are $700 a piece. So that's $5,900.
I'm good with it.
Then everybody will be set up. I'm gonna skip this next one for a minute, because as you can see, I don't have an amount in here, it's just something I wanna talk to you guys about, but I'm gonna skip it. The next one is a request that actually came in from the circuit clerk's office, the state's attorney's office, and the public defender's office. So I guess the printers in the courtrooms, they're having issues with, they're jamming up, not working, they're really old printers. And so they requested a new printer for each of the courtrooms. I reached out and got an estimate. This total right here is the price of the new printers plus the maintenance agreement that would go into effect for both of them. The maintenance agreement you don't have to do, but with the maintenance agreement, like we have in the treasurer's office and the other places, they put a device on the computer or on the printer. It monitors the ink level. You don't ever have to order it. The ink is included. They ship it out to you automatically, so you never run out. And then you just, and it takes care of all the maintenance. So if anything breaks, they're out here within, a few hours to fix it. So that's the 2217.
I'm good.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, that was wrong. All right, the next one is a printer for the public defender's office. This actually didn't come in as a request from the public defender, but in this year's budget, we budgeted for, because we set up that office for him to get a printer. Because he was already doing the job as part-time, he had his own printer, so he never bought one. But as you know, now he'll be leaving the office, a new person will be coming in, I'm sure they're gonna need a printer. So I set it up the same way. This is to purchase the printer outright and to pay for the maintenance agreement so that everything's included. That's what that is.
Gotta have it.
All right, the next one you guys will recognize, I think 2 years ago we had it in the budget, but then we had some other stuff come up and we used that money. And then last year we didn't even put it in the budget. So this is for the assessor's building that's across the street here. It's in really bad shape. I think Lance has been working to clear everything out of it over there, and he's gonna continue to do that. He bought the last voting booths that he needed out of the grant that he got. So the old voting booths over there, he can get them out of there, get rid of them. And there may be some boxes and stuff in the basement still, but somehow we need to take care of it, and that building needs to come down. So that's what's in there. I have no idea how much it will cost. I took a guess. I think that's what we had in there 2 years ago. I don't know what it's gonna cost to tear it down.
I think it will be under that, but y'all need to take bids on, I'm not sure, but you're playing high enough on it compared to another building that was taken down right next to it.
Okay, do we wanna lower it? I just guessed. I mean, I am no expert.
Leave it at that. Yeah, I'd say leave it at that, and we'll see what happens.
Okay, obviously we'll get bids and we'll, take the cheapest, so. The next one is a request actually from me, when we got desks for the office, what was that, 2 years ago, 3 years ago? Obviously I just used what was in my office, I was fine with it. It is now, getting to be a problem and has splinters, so I have to have scotch tape on it to keep from getting splinters. So that's just an estimate to get a desk and like a credenza or something to keep storage in behind it.
I would raise that, I know you always spend what you need, but get it in the budget to make sure we have sufficient. That would be my recommendation. 2,500 or 3,000. You know, you don't know what it's gonna cost.
I don't,
From
but,
buying hundreds of them at the bank over the years.
but I think I was looking at stuff like that, like Brandy has and
In my-
stuff like that.
I think mine was 2,500.
Oh,
I think
was
it
it?
was, yeah.
See, that's what I'm saying, just go ahead and put that extra.
You think that's what it was?
Mhm.
I'm a bad guess. Are you okay with me getting a new desk?
Yes.
You have to.
All right, I'm gonna skip this next one because obviously this is an arbitrary number. This doesn't necessarily have to be this amount, so we'll come back to the buildings. The next 3 requests are from Dana for rescue. He said he needs $1,000 worth of tires. Do you know what he needs tires on?
Most likely, that will be on the 1750, which is the old ambulance we donated to that department. It's been several years.
Is it a dude?
Yes, on the back. Yeah, yeah.
So, $1,000 for tires, we good with that?
Oh, can you get it down, I mean, can you get a set of tires for $1,000?
I
I'm
don't
not a
I
dude.
don't know how many he's planning on replacing.
Every time I put tires, I always put 10 plies on my truck, but they're $1,200-$1,600.
Yeah, they're expensive.
They're expensive tires, yeah.
I can change it if you want, I was going over here to make sure.
I mean, we can get them for $1,000, that's great. You
And we
know,
should be able to have the ability on that truck as well to reach out and do that interstate bid. And I think, we have some local vendors here in town that have access to that. That would be my suggestion, to make sure we get the heavy tire like Ken's talking about for the best price we can get it for.
It just says, with the age of the vehicle and wear on the tires, anticipate replacing tires at approximately $1,000. You want me to increase it?
like 1,200 anyways.
Okay. The next 2 requests, I gave you guys the printouts that Dana sent in, so you have the hard copy in front of you. The first one and the one that he is most, well, he wants both, but the one that he wants the most is the spreader. He requested this last year. Last year, we were in a little bit tighter situation with the budget, and so we asked him to request it again this year. That's for an Ion IS320 spreader, plus this amount right here includes the extended reach tool and batteries and a charger. So I think the extended reach tool was something he would like to have, but the $11,000 spreader, he absolutely is his first request. So,
I think I'm good with it, we can bring off last.
you think we need it?
Yeah.
Okay. I think it's old, what we have.
I'll make a statement, Grant knows that when my son was stuck in that 10-foot or 10-inch culvert, it would have been nice to have that, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think, yes, was the simple answer to that. But,
Yeah.
there's some developments we need to do with how we're handling these vehicles, and as you know, our calls are going up, not down. And these are faster, easier to deploy, and we're gonna try and limp along some of the older stuff because we need some of those things, the hydraulic frames and so on. Kent's gonna remember all of that, obviously, to keep using all of this equipment. But we're gonna keep trying to place more equipment in more places so that we can be more versatile in the field. But the new things that are out are so much improved, easier to use. These are 60-volt batteries instead of having to drag hydraulic lines down a hill or whatever, where we can go down and take care of what we have to do. the job done. So, in reference to what Dave's saying, we're also gonna be able to use these battery operated tools to be able to, in your case, we would need to make a cut underwater. And, that will give us the ability to do that, particular thing you're referring to.
I know Dana told me that this is not a duplicate of equipment that somebody else has. We would be the only ones that have this in the county.
That's correct.
I kind of understood from him that some of the other sources kind of backing off and backing out, so
Yeah.
it's pretty much gonna leave us.
Yeah.
We are very busy, and I'll have a proposal for you this next year on how we might be able to solve some of that. Then it will cost to keep more equipment, deploy more directions, that idea. That benefits my department, benefits the rest of you guys. So we'll talk about that later, but this is phase one of that.
And the cutter goes with that, and that's what Grant was talking about. I mean, I saw my son basically on the chance of dying, and I knew I voted no on that. Kind of was a heartfelt, gut-wrenching thing I was thinking about. And, Grant's people did a great job, but it would have been nice to have that equipment available. And the other one is the cutting, Dana talked to you guys too, but it's the cutter that goes with it.
Yeah, that's
Probably
this
makes a
next one.
wonderful match pair, doesn't it?
What's that extended to, what's it talking about?
Well, the arms are the same length. I think probably what they're referring to there is the tips that are the ability to put on the end where you can reach up further, or getting deeper.
Yeah, you have this,
Uh-huh.
it's behind there. Flip it over to the very back, that's the extended tool.
You see the tips on that
Also,
end.
yeah,
Extended part, or extended reach tips.
We probably, in the case that maybe Dave was referring to, would maybe crush that issue instead of cut. But it's safer for us to get in the water. I think I'm still cold from that call.
And if you flip to the page before it, that's the one you're looking at right there, that's the cutter.
yeah.
So, with actually, and I'll have to let Dana know, with all of these purchases, he'll have to get more than one bid per our
What comes out way since my day.
purchasing policy that we passed because it's over $5,000. But we can still put this bid in there because we know it's for, we can at least get it for this price. And if he gets a second bid that's cheaper, then we spend less, but,
Very good.
I'm good
so,
with
you
it.
good with it? All right.
Well,
All right, the next is a request from the county clerk's office. Lance can't be here today, but he has requested a flat record cabinet. Brandy, you know anything about it?
Yeah, I'm currently on my last drawer on the plaque cabinets. So, and also that will give us more, table space.
And you have space for the cabinet to go?
Yes.
So he, got a quote for it. This is with the price of it plus shipping and everything. So it's $2,895.
And that's a set of two, which I believe,
Okay.
yeah, the base.
Are you good with an additional plaque cabinet for the county clerk's office?
Yes.
All right, so the next two items are in reference to the circuit clerk's office. So I'm gonna rack your brain and go backwards. So if you remember, back in July of 2019, the state of Illinois changed the fee structure for everybody in the state. At that time, Tiffany had come to a board meeting and had let us know at that time that, in a couple of years, her funds were not gonna be able to support even the 6 people that we currently have been budgeting for the last few years. So, in order for the circuit clerk's office to stay, at 6 people, they're at 7 now, one is retiring 11/30. We always budget for 6. In order for them to stay at 6 people, I must go to the second one. Tiffany at the time had requested that those funds don't pay for fringe benefits anymore, which is $32,000 worth of fringe benefits. So if if the funds don't pay for the fringe benefits, they can actually support 6 people. It will take the checking account balance in both of those funds down to 0, basically a couple $100. So that's why I have the second request on there is besides for the fringe, the court automation fund, really needs money in there to move forward with the e-filing for, I think it's criminal that's not done yet. So I put that in there so that they can actually start moving forward, with that. So I'm gonna come over here and show you what I'm talking about. So this is our budget. So this is the court automation fund. This is the fringe benefits for it, which is $10,720. I can't read that here. It's gonna leave the fund negative, which this can't be negative. So if you want them to have 6 people, we're gonna have to move money. Same thing, this is document storage, $21,000 for the, so 1 person's paid out of court automation and 2 people are paid out of document storage. So if you don't do that, this fund would end negative 17,000. Well, I can't allow that to be negative in your budget. So, so it's up to you. If you want them to continue with 6 people, we're gonna have to fund them this year. If you don't, they'll have to go to 5.
Considering there's a new person in there, I don't know how we could even question changing her.
To 5 people.
I think it would be, I mean, I think we ought to fund it this year, and that'll give her a chance and us a chance to see how efficient the office is going to be. And then possibly next year, if she decides she can operate with 5, then we'll go that route, you know, and if it needs to be 6.
Well, that's why I set it up this way to do a transfer to those funds instead of paying for the 4th person out of the general fund. Because I thought if we start paying for 4, then it's gonna be hard to go back to say, oh, we're only paying for 3. So if we just make a transfer, you can decide every year what you're doing.
I would rather do it on a trial basis and see, because I have faith that possibly will get cut next year. So I could be wrong, especially with everything moving electronically and so forth. It should be more efficient. That's my thoughts on it.
I think so too.
And that way,
It's fine.
we're not submitting ourselves to a continual thing.
Right. Then that way you're just making a one-time transfer and you decide next year if you make it again. Okay. Okay, so the next thing is from the assessor's office. If you remember last year, she requested this same thing. It's an enhancement to the website. I looked at Brandy, she's
No,
like,
okay.
I don't know. Basically, I think it's so that people can get records online themselves without having to come in here to the assessor's office. If it gets paid, it will actually be paid out of the assessor's GIS fund. I just want to show you how that fund is though, so you know. It has the money in there right now to be able to afford this, but. So it's not in there right now. It's gonna end the year with $12,800. It has the money to afford it, but if you look, it brings in about $30,000 a year and it spends about $38,000 a year. So you're gonna go $8,000 backwards in this fund, and then if you add the $2,000, you're gonna go $10,000 backwards in this fund. It would be able to support it, but eventually the general fund may not be able to. Right now, this fund transfers $10,000 to the general fund to offset Amy's salary because she does GIS mapping. Actually, it could pay for Amy's whole salary, but it doesn't have enough money because all Amy does is GIS mapping. So it's up to you guys. It's a change that eventually you may lose this much money to the general fund. I can't really explain more than what it does. Bobby, you may know.
Well, what kind of records will be accessible when this Does anybody know that? Or
I don't.
I'm assuming, I don't know if it's gonna be their property cards, which is gonna have, on the property card, you'll have the latest deed, and then may have prior deeds and information on the property.
are those already in the system?
That
Or
I,
is that something that's gotta be,
that I wouldn't know.
Here you
Only
go.
thing I could think of would be,
To view GIS maps.
the max?
Yeah.
Oh,
What's a GIS map?
that's the mapping system. Say if you wanna look at your property, you can pull it up by your name or your property number, and it will show you a rough estimate of basically where your boundary line is.
If you
So
go
like-
on, like, on X,
Yeah.
go in and they download that data to that
Yes.
software. And so you can do it now
Yeah.
without paying the subscription.
So basically, you would be able to pull up what the assessor has. I don't know if they're charging a fee for that.
$2,500 a year.
No, I'm saying the assessor.
Oh, no.
Okay. Because right now, I think it's $1 per map. Is what
Well,
they
maybe
charge.
that's what we could do is
exactly.
charge a fee.
So it'd be
for-
similar to what ours is then. It'd be pay per document, mapping.
And like I said, probably in 2 years, you would lose this money coming to the general fund, but, you can always, if it doesn't work out and you don't think you're getting a benefit out of it, I guess you can cancel the subscription, so.
I'm good with it.
I'm okay with it, but I think we definitely need to look into making it
Charging.
pay for
Alright,
itself.
something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, the next the final requests are all for the sheriff. Nope, sorry. The next request is for the coroner. So, the coroner's deputies, haven't had an increase in a really long time. And so he is requesting, I think it's a $50 increase. Let's do that. Oh, no, that's last year's. Yes, he's requesting, they get paid a stipend a month, and so he's requesting that get increased by $50 a month. So right now, they get paid $3,300 a year, so he's asking for them to pay $3,900 a year.
I don't have a problem with that. I mean, that's,
I'm in favor of it, but I can't tell you yes.
Oh, got it, that's why you have that book, okay. All right, so then the last requests are for the sheriff's office, sorry, I didn't mean to save you for last, Sheriff. So, the sheriff has requested academy training money for, possibly 2 deputies. So the one, actually, we'll go down and put a yes on this one. One of them, the sheriff has agreed to pay for out of the DUI fund, so that, that's taken care of. But the second one would need to be additional training money into his general fund budget. So we expect to have some turnover in the sheriff's office this year, and in order to get new deputies, you have to pay for training. Do you want to say anything?
I just have 2, and I suspect that, one for sure is leaving, another one, strong possibility, so I want to be prepared for that. Typically, that is paid by the state of Illinois through the Training and Standards Board, but since we're in this COVID situation and this, this new push for, decreasing the amount of tickets and things like that, all that money doesn't go back into the training, so it's gonna have to come out of our budgets this year, and it's about a little over $6,500 for each academy to go to the 14-week academy, so I'm just trying to prepare if I had that, because in the past, I've always tried to hire people that are already trained and ready to go, but, that pool's dried up, so probably have to send some people to the academy being trained this time.
I'm good with it.
All right, the next item is to add a part-time line in the sheriff's general fund budget for a part-time dispatcher. So as you guys know, this year we've had some turnover in dispatchers. It takes some time to find a new person, to replace them, and then sometimes we're in a predicament covering shifts and everything like that. So, correct me if I'm wrong, Sheriff, but I think the idea was to hire a part-time person, have them on payroll, then if there was a vacancy, if it worked out, we would promote that part-time person to full-time, and then be only looking for another part-time person.
Yeah, the issue is that it takes so long to train somebody. We lost one last year. We hired another person, they didn't work out after about 6 months. I still haven't filled that full-time position yet, trying to get somebody trained. And it's anywhere from a 3 to 6 month, learning curve or training period before they're ready to allow them to dispatch on their own by themselves. So, I just think that if I always have somebody waiting that's ready to go, then we won't be in that dilemma. So that's the reason I'm asking for that.
And with it being a part-time person, we wouldn't have to pay for benefits, health insurance, stuff like that.
We would keep them under the 1,000 hour rule.
Yes.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, me too.
Next is for a new vehicle for the sheriff's office. So this is obviously not the price of a new vehicle, but it's the price of a lease. We usually do a 3-year lease, and then it's about $13,000 to $15,000 for a 3-year lease, and about $5,000 to outfit the car. So
Yeah, so the vehicles we got now, we've got 2 in our fleet that got a lot of miles on them. One of them we're getting replaced. I got 3 actually. One we're replacing, the new vehicle just came in this year that we budgeted for the 2020 budget, so we'll try to be taking delivery of that next week. And then I've got other cars that are 140, 150,000 miles, so it's time to think about replacing one of those this year too, so.
No, I don't have a problem with it. I appreciate, because I know last year you asked for 2, and we asked you to cut back to 1 because of budget, and we made 3, so. I think that's an important part of the county, so.
Yeah.
I'm good with it.
I'm good with it.
And then the last item on here, I went ahead and put a yes by it because it's going to be paid for out of the sheriff's DUI fund. But he has 4 body armors for deputies that are expiring, so we have to have those.
That, hopefully I won't need all that money because I'll always apply for that grant through Southern 5. And so hopefully that'll be, we can supplement some of that. We won't have to use all of it. Best for around $850 a piece, so.
Okay, so that leads us to go backwards to the 2 items that are buildings. So, I got a lot to say on this stuff. So for one, I put in my email to you guys, if you haven't been to the highway department building lately, you should take a visit. It is not in the best condition. They're doing the best they can with what they have, but we are in desperate need of a new admin building for the highway department. The second one is animal control, and if you know, we put $30,000 in the budget this year that got transferred over to the building fund, and they had $5,000 that they got from a donation. So there's $35,000 sitting in that fund right now. I just arbitrarily put $60,000 because at the time it worked out. Now looks like you have $45,000 left. But like I said, we can move money out of contingencies depending on whatever you want to put in here. So I don't know what that building is going to cost. When Dirk had gotten told me, he said it was a $400,000 building. I don't know that animal control needs a $400,000 building. The new administrator would be perfectly happy with a pole barn. I don't know if you want to go that route. I don't know if you want to go somewhere in the middle, so.
No, we can get by a whole lot cheaper than $400,000. I mean, they're making these pole barns now that are, you know, heavily gauge steel. I'd say comfortably, I mean, just for the, I've got pole barns and stuff. $150,000, $200,000 would put up an outstanding animal control building. And that's concrete and plumbing, that's the whole 9 yards.
I think the expense that we really don't know about on that is gonna be some equipment that's gonna have to have. In other words, if we're going to set up a area for a vet to work in, it's gonna have certain equipment and everything, so that type of stuff, I think we're in the dark on at this point.
Right.
But I agree with you, pole barn, I mean, you know, you can make a pole barn however you want it now.
Right, yeah.
And, inside and out, so, I,
So it sounds like you're gonna need a lot more than 60,000 to get there, because you have 35. So
Yeah.
here's the other things, there's really 2 options if you wanna tackle both of these projects, highway and animal control this year. So, we currently have a fund called the revolving loan fund, called county investment fund. It was established prior to me being employed here, and it was to bring new businesses to the county and give out loans for them, at the time, low interest rate loans. Well, with the way that the economy has been lately, actually the bank is giving a lower interest rate than what the RLF program is set up to give. So a lot of our current loans are refinancing with the bank and paying us off. We do have a few that are really close to paying their loans off, so they're not refinancing. And then we have, I think, 2 that are not close to paying off, but they're not refinancing. So, in 2017, I believe it was, we fulfilled the requirements. So this was funded originally by a grant. And so we had requirements on interest rates and all of that. In 2017, we fulfilled the requirement. Darren Bailey let me know, he got a letter, it was good. So, this money is actually ours. You can continue the program, you can end the program, and, spend the money however you want. So, I'm bringing this up because right now, this fund has $240,000 sitting in there, which would be a big help towards new buildings for those 2 things. The other option is, you know, you guys all know that we can't get loans from the bank because we're a government, but you can do municipal leases, I believe. I'd have to look into that more. Dave, you probably know more about municipal leases too, but that's always an option to get a lease and make a yearly payment towards these buildings. Do you have anything on that?
Yeah, I looked into it, made some phone calls because years ago, there was a question whether on a physical structure you could do a municipal lease because a lease arrangement is not an indebtedness to the county. If you don't make your payments on Scott's leased car, it just goes back. I mean, we don't have any obligation to make those payments. It's almost a trust arrangements, but they've changed the rules to where municipal leases do cover physical properties, and I can relate to that. I think it was Lick Creek, or Jonesboro School and District 37 that leased their gymnasiums when they were constructed. And just like Scott's doing with his car, produce a municipal lease with a promissory note or a note, you do it. So, you know, here we're putting roughly $100,000 away for animal control and highway department. I think we're set aside. We lost that screen.
There's 35 in animal control right now, and I had 60 on here, but with the stuff we added for Dana, I mean, to get it to balance right now, you'd have to change that to 45,000.
So even at 45,000 plus the money we already have there, I looked up on the annual payment for 5 years. It's only about $150,000 and only less than $30,000 because the interest rates are so low. We could probably get a municipal lease for 2.5% to 3% in 5 years. And it's cheaper than what we're putting aside.
Yeah.
Look down the road.
So there's that option, and
We got lots of, and what she's saying is there's lots of options we have from the municipal leagues to take it out of revolving loan fund to get these going and get them done.
And just going back to this revolving loan fund, and I know it's a big decision to decide whether to end the program or not. We haven't done one since I've actually been here, so we haven't done one at all since 2016. I can tell you the ones we've done, I'm not gonna give any names, but they've not been the greatest. We fight to get payments.
I personally would like to get out of that business because it's,
And now the interest rates of the banks are lower than what this fund is established for. So people aren't coming to us.
it's just, all you do is make people mad. I mean, we're not a bank, and, like I said, we haven't had anybody apply lately. But it's a time-consuming job right now for somebody to stay after some of these people to make them pay. And, they get behind and, you know, I for one would prefer to take that money and however we decide to split it up or whatever, both these building projects, and start working on that as far as getting some bids and.
Okay.
Like Dave's talking about, the balance, you know, if we can do a municipal lease, I think.
To make up any difference.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that would be the whole thing.
But that's my opinion. I mean, everybody speak up. I'm just one.
No, I agree with you.
I agree.
I would say the cost to do it is gonna go up at an inflationary rate greater than what the borrowing rate would be.
Yeah.
I mean, so if we put it off a year, we're gonna be further in.
Angie, you don't think we're still pursuing grants?
So I've had Heather in the treasurer's office looking at trying to find grants. If you remember, Dana told us, or not Dana, Dirk told us that there was a Purina grant out there that we could get for like $400,000. Then once we got the land from Anna, he said Purina's not doing the grant anymore. So I don't know if they're not doing it temporarily because of COVID. At one time, he said that we were approved for the Purina grant and we didn't spend it, so now we're ineligible. But I don't see any record ever, and I've looked, that we were ever approved for that grant.
Okay.
So I don't think that's the case. But Heather has found several small grants. So it may be a $2,000 grant, a $5,000 grant to buy, let's say, dog cots or bowls and operating supplies, but nothing for a building.
Okay, so it's not that, that's not any difference, okay.
No.
Alright.
And I'm gonna still keep looking. I'm trying to have somebody that knows someone at Purina reach out and see if they think that grant program's gonna start back up. But I haven't got the answer yet, so.
Frankly, if we don't get started, we'll never get started. There's a point where you just have to start getting drawings and ideas and.
Yes. So you have 35,000 in there. When I just changed that, if you only put the 45,000 that's left to spend right there, that's 80,000. And then there's 250,000. That didn't matter. And then there's 250,000 in the revolving loan fund, so you're talking about $330,000. And then we may have to just get a municipal lease for the difference.
I hate to say it, I can't believe we can't get a highway building, because that's just gonna be a small building with an office and, you know.
And we may not need a lease, we may have the money, just until we get the estimates and the bids and all that and get it started, we don't know. So for now, if you want this to stay at 45,000 to transfer over to them, you're fine. If you want me to increase it, I can. But that's what I was saying, you're gonna have to take money out of contingencies, which is up here. You'll have to take money out of contingencies if you wanna put more money into the animal control program.
Well, should that money be moved now out of that revolving loan thing, or is that something that we can do?
I can budget it as a
Next June.
transfer out, and then we'll just see if you wanna do it. As long as I put it in the budget, you can do it, you don't have to do it. So,
Well, I mean, I don't know. I've got mixed feelings myself. I think we ought to take that money, and split it up or whatever, both these projects, not dump it all in one.
okay,
And then, because I think both of them are needed things to be done. You know, obviously, I know you and I have talked, but we've got this pad over here that's plenty big, already poured, that could house the highway office building, period, and have room left over on it for storage that, like it was originally put there for, I think. But until we get into it, you know, and I'm a firm believer in the appearance of this building over here. I'd like to match it up to Grant's office building down there, just for the sake of, you know, everything kind of looking the same around here. But that's just my thoughts on it. But, I don't know, somebody else talk to me.
Are you bidding steel frame buildings or post frame buildings? That's gonna be a big difference in price, I think.
We don't know at this point. I mean, probably animal control, or probably, I'm guessing we're talking about a post frame building. But, you know,
You could do a post frame over here and still
I
make
mean,
the
it's a
exterior.
preference.
Yeah,
and
still make the
At this point, if you
exterior,
get
yeah.
a well-engineered post frame building, now you're gonna save money over a steel frame, generally, my understanding.
all we really need over here is 2 bathrooms, an entry area away for somebody, the
Reception.
Got a lot of
reception,
good concrete right there.
Yeah.
Not getting in.
and an office for the engineer, you know, maybe a little.
Size of the issue. The pad that was poured there, came from some DCEO money that I started on years ago. You're well aware of that. That file is still open and that grant is still active. I went through several weeks this year working on keeping that up, and the last I knew, unless something has changed in the state of Illinois, this board still has access to over $18,000 in that grant if they would just approve and send it on, where you could take care and fulfill the obligation of what the grant was written to EO. But Angie and I have had this conversation several times. I've had it with you as well. We have money available there that will help take care of part of that issue where the pad is poured. And then maybe you guys can discuss what you do with this side of it, and then match everything you're wanting to do, and also give you a boost on getting the storage facility up, if they'll pay that money out. It's a win-win if you have to take this building down over here.
so. For now, if you're good with it, I'll just put it in the budget to transfer the money out of the RLF fund. And then, like I said, that way, if you wanna do it, we do it, and if something happens and you change your mind, you don't have to do it. And then I'll leave this, do you want me to keep this at 45,000, or do you wanna do less in contingencies and more to go to animal control?
I personally say leave it at the 45, because I don't think this will get completed to the point that we know where we're even gonna be by the end of the year. Even if we get started today, next year, then we can add to or subtract to it, but leave the contingency where it's at. This is just good seed money.
And contingency money actually can be used for anything, so if you decide to move money out of contingencies to a building, whenever, so.
Well, we don't know what the year's gonna bring anyway, so I'm not in favor of bothering contingencies at this point, so.
Okay. All right, that is all of the items, and we discussed all the, stuff over here in the, for the regular budget. I'll hit on a couple changing items, just so you guys are aware of here. We have our cannabis tax is now coming in, so that is budgeted, right here. So, Again, we only have 2 months to go by. It's really hard to project something off 2 months. Those would have been they started allowing us to charge in July of 2020. So those, we've gotten paid for July and August. I just have to guess that that's a reflection of what they were really close in payment, so I assume that's what we're gonna get every month.
Underwriting.
So if
So you're-
anything, then
You're being a little conservative,
I am being a little bit conservative.
and that's fine.
So. But look what I budgeted this past year. I had no idea. We only budgeted 50,000 and that was way low. So,
We thought we were gonna get the whole year.
yeah, we thought it was the whole year. Yeah, you're right. So, and then the only other thing that I don't have in this budget right now is, as you guys would probably hear all the time about CURES money, downstate money. It's basically for the reimbursement for local governments for coronavirus expenses. I've been working a while with Scott and Grant. We're gathering all invoices, submitting them into the system to get paid. They have to go through them and then they have to decide if they're gonna reimburse us or not. I'm pretty sure we'll be reimbursed for ours. And we've made some purchases, some ultraviolet lights to do some disinfecting, some CPR devices that will allow the ambulance department to not be down in someone's face to do the CPR, some AEDs,
And the next cardiac monitor
And-
arrived yesterday.
and then, yes, and the next cardiac monitor. So we are spending the money. It's a reimbursement, so we have to go out on a limb and we have to spend the money and then we submit it and get it back. So I'll still have to put that in there, but it's gonna offset. It's gonna look like a revenue and an expense, so.
And there's some news stories on this morning about that, and they just want to make sure that people are registered to receive the money.
We are.
Good.
Yeah,
Very good.
I registered us, we got our number, I think it's $375 or $378,000. So, what is it?
379.
$379,000. So we are registered, we've already got the approval, we already got the agreement. And I started putting invoices in the portal, but you have to group them together. And for every invoice, whether it's one piece of plexiglass that the custodian bought, I have to have the invoice, the check, the trial balance. We have to prove that it wasn't budgeted, and I have to do a justification statement, which is like a paragraph of what it is. So it's time consuming, but well worth it. So as soon as we get this budget cleared out, that's my focus, and it is due 12/30. So
Is any of that jail-related expense, Angie, that you submitted yet?
I haven't submitted any of them, but I've entered them. So you
Okay.
enter them in this portal, and then when you get a big group, then you finally hit submit.
Okay.
And then we
So-
also have to work on the amount of time for excused absence from work,
Yes,
because the first 80 hours, the government says we have to allow the employee to have, but we need to track the hours to be able to turn into you what it cost us approximately to have that person off while they were in quarantine and pay the person that replaced them.
yes,
This is
and
money
then
we might get back.
according to the press conference or whatever you call it that Pritzker did yesterday, I mean, he said yesterday that you can actually turn in overtime for the sheriff's department and the ambulance department. So any overtime you had can be submitted to the grant to be paid.
I've been putting that on the sheets when I turn in for overtime, so I've documented that's what it's for, COVID-related expense,
Right.
shift or whatever.
And as far as being reimbursed for the prisoners, I know Tyler and I talked just briefly about that. That's going to be part of this program too, about being able to, because we couldn't send them to state, and we had to house them and pay all that expense. Is that going to be part of
The
this?
sheriff and I are gonna try. That's all we can
That's
say.
great.
Got a number put on that yet?
$85,000.
That's what it cost us extra.
So far, I mean, that's not counting, that was up to a certain date, I don't remember what
Is
date.
that, I don't even know if that has the medical bill in there that was associated.
No, not all of
Oh,
them.
you got people sitting there that should have been transferred to DOC months ago.
Right. So I think we have a very good argument with that, to say that, I mean, that's 100% COVID related. If COVID
Right.
wasn't
Yeah.
happening, they would have been out of our custody and we wouldn't be paying for it.
Yes.
To me, that's a no-brainer, but I'm not the one that vets it. So the sheriff and I are working together, we have a list. Obviously, I'll have to update it again, right before I hit submit, and then we're gonna try for it.
Good.
Very good. Yeah, 'cause we got 6 more going this week, so, today, in fact.
Okay.
So that'll be 6 more that we need to tally on.
Yep. I'm gonna try and get every penny of our $379,000.
Have you got anything from the court or state's attorney's office on any of that stuff?
No. Would they have anything COVID related?
I'm sure they people off.
Oh, like if, see, that's the one thing we have to watch. So if they were off, and they tested positive, there's actually a different program where Angela puts it in payroll and we don't pay for their payroll. Right away, we're reimbursed for it automatically. So we can't submit that through because she's already been reimbursed for it. The other thing is if they worked from home, which I think is what Daniel did with his employees, then you can't submit it because they were working. So it's only if they were home and not working. So. But we're buying some stuff that was much needed. Like I said, those ultraviolet lights gonna help the sheriff clean vehicles, gonna help the ambulance department clean ambulances. And then the sheriff is looking into a couple other things for the courthouse.
I have, but it's gonna be one of the situations, we talked about the L locators on the vehicles and stuff. The only way that they're getting that justified, and paid for through the CARES Act is basically, say you get reimbursed for the jail, and they're using that money to buy that stuff. So I've not found any justification for that yet, and I was afraid of that. Same way with the security door. I can get body scanners, but I was wanting an x-ray machine, and nobody has been successful doing that yet that I've found.
Okay.
And we're probably talking over $100,000 for one of those anyway. I thought we could buy them cheaper, but they're pretty pricey.
That's where we're at. So that's the CARES money. I'm trying to see if there's anything that's, I don't think you want to go through every line. You guys see that you've seen this or will see this in your email, so you can, at your leisure, go through the 103 tabs at the bottom of it. But just to try to think about things that have, there's nothing in here because any new requests that anyone made, you just decided on. So these are just the normal things. I can't think of anything else that's really, these are all the ones.
Angie, have you talked to anybody about the grand jury stuff since we talked?
I have not. So,
It seemed like there were some questions about that, so I didn't know if anyone else brought that up.
I moved all the grand jury expense to the state's attorney's line and the regular jury expense to the court line, since that's the way it was supposed to go. But when I did that, it was going to, the state's attorney, so
So is that the transcripts that moved to the state's attorney line?
transcripts have always been in state's attorney.
Okay, all right.
So transcripts have always been in state's attorney. Grand jury was being coded to the court
But
system.
that's 8,000, right?
For the budget. Is that what you're asking?
Well, I know we had an $8,000 number on something there with grand jury.
So.
This is all kind of, seemed a little like we were talking, we're not really exactly sure.
So last year, grand jury expense under the state's attorneys was 12,000. I changed that to 16,000 because we were coding things down to court system that should have been up in the state's attorneys. So I increased that budget so we can code grand jury to the state's attorney's office that needs to be. And then I decreased the budget down here, under the court system, under the circuit jurors. they were getting budgeted 8,000, I decreased them down to 6. This number, again, just like the jail bill, is a number that you sometimes will have to take money out of contingencies for. You may have to take money out of contingencies here, because I'm guessing how many jury trials we're gonna have. I have no idea, it just depends on how many cases go to jury trial. So, when I went back and extracted the data to the right places, we average 6,000 was actually the highest. Sometimes we may have $2,000 worth of expenses, so.
Something to think about, just for future purposes. We still have these folks that are doing our conflict public defender work, okay? And there are times when they're getting a particularly contentious case, okay? We're paying them quite a bit of money, I think, to have people coming in here doing that conflict work. But if they get one of those contentious cases, it ends up being a jury trial. When I was not in this position and I was billing, I had an 8-day long jury trial. That was a $10,000 bill. We're going to need to be real cognizant of that going forward. I will be watching what I think should go to trial. What I'm getting at is I don't want to see a situation where I'm saying we're having trials and then one of our public defenders contract people that bill by the hour, say they have a trial, okay? They're gonna bill you $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 for a 2 or 3 day trial, all right? On top of whatever else they do. Then we get another one, maybe we have another one. And now we basically added a whole nother person to the, on the average, you're talking another $20,000, $30,000 on top of things. So what I'm gonna do is watch for that. If I see that happening, I know that it's been proposed before that if someone gets in that situation, to work a flat rate deal with them. That way they stop billing and take on what they have at that point already, and you don't have to worry about them running up a bill on you. So I will watch for that, but I just wanted everyone to kind of have an understanding of some concern I have, because people tell me we need to have trials, because that's how we get cases cleared off. When people see there's a result after a trial, you'd be amazed at how many things resolve, okay? That really speeds things up. So I'll watch for that. Just want people to be aware of that. And regarding the grand jury, Sheriff and I talked about grand jury. I've talked to Angie about grand jury. There's different ways to look at that whole thing. From an attorney's perspective, from law enforcement perspective, from the court's perspective. Bottom line is this, it's more efficient. Okay? When you're charging 300 felonies a year, which is about the average of this state's attorney's office over the past couple of terms, at least the past one term, I know. That's a lot of volume to have a preliminary hearing on. A preliminary hearing, i.e. the officers there, the state's there, the judges there, the defendant's there. We have a contested hearing where we fight about probable cause for a half an hour or more, depending on who it is, okay? Imagine doing that 300 times. How much delay we would impose on the courts. We already have delay problem, okay? Unfortunately, that's where we are right now, because we can't have grand jury. Now, probably 7 out of 10 of your preliminary hearings will be resolved by stipulation, because they're like, they've got enough to get probable cause, I don't want to have a hearing, okay? So we can't plan to have a full-blown hearing on every single case, because it never happens that way. We have to be prepared for it still, but we don't necessarily expect that to happen. So don't think that we're up there having a full-blown hearing on every case, because that's not the way it works. But from an efficiency standpoint right now, it's easier to get your probable cause with a grand jury, okay? It's less stressful for the officers, okay? And I think really at the end of the day, it's going to save time for the court as well if we keep grand jury going. However, with the COVID situation, we're going to have to keep just doing the old tradition of probable cause preliminary hearings. So that's kind of the status of the grand jury situation.
And then just so you know, the lawyers that you were talking about that we bring in, I don't know what you call them, third
We
party.
call them conflict TVs. is what we
Okay.
call them.
It is my understanding that those bills are to go through the state's attorney's office, and you're supposed to see them and sign off on them before they come to me.
That's not the way it works.
Okay.
I will have to figure that out, because that's not the way it works for that.
I think it's just so you knew how much is being billed
Well,
and
they
say,
file,
yes,
they're
that's.
supposed to file, okay, we get a filed copy, but I don't know if there's any vetting that goes on through the state attorney.
And they charge $75 an hour, that's the rate.
$75 an hour, which is a bargain.
Yeah.
They do go through the judge's office, the judge signs off on it.
Yes,
He will sometimes strike out certain things because they overreached or this or that. It doesn't happen here a lot, I've seen in other counties, it's a bloodbath, so it just kind of depends on the judge.
I think that's all I have for you. Like I said, you'll have you have this whole file, so you can go through each one of the tabs. If you guys have any questions that come up, let me know.
This CARES Act grant, and I was at Rural Health this morning, first thing, they have a neat system now to get in Rural Health with a facial scanner and it takes your temperature and a picture at the same time. We have extra money, we might look at that because it proves who's in the courthouse, who's not, because it will automatically take the picture too, I think. In stores, it's,
I considered it, but I've not seen or got any quotes on what it was gonna cost. Because actually, if they got an X-ray machine, would have been more beneficial to us, because the way I look at it, I don't wanna go out and spend $100,000 and we try to, write a justification statement and it's not paid for. That's my biggest worry. But you're not touching any of those items. If that person puts it on, goes to the conveyor belt, scans their bodies, they come through there, then it would be good. But right now, the way they're doing it, I would be happy to look into it, but is it really something we really need?
I don't know, it'd be also proof who's in the courthouse and records it that way, it appears.
Can you find one of those got a built-in infrared sterilizing equipment with it, maybe? That might be a way to sneak it in, I don't know.
Well, Angela did send me one, that I was gonna share with you, Sheriff, that it's not anything except a thermometer,
Yeah,
but it mounts to the wall.
I've seen that.
Although my question was, how does that work? Because what if someone's really short or really tall?
Well, that's what the
I
Rural
don't know how
Health
that
was
works.
sitting at a spot that I had been down, like that to get it, but I just thought it was kind of a neat
I mean,
system instead of
We
using a little.
spent a couple $100, but more than that, throughout the courthouse, but, I've got 2 thermometers like what they use, so I mean, that's what we do, but, I mean, I'll explore it if you want me to,
I just said if we had extra money that we could get
but, yeah.
and utilize, that appears to be a COVID-related probably option.
Well, at this point, I think, would like to thank all the office holders and department heads. My time here, I don't remember the exact figures, but, and I think it goes to the hard work of the board past years, and, this is about the lowest amount of capital improvements that I remember. And the fact that, I think some of the decisions that we've made in the past are maturing now as far as financially. I think everybody's done a great job. I really do. I'm hoping it just continues to get better. I think we're not flushed with money by any means. That can change tomorrow. Because we never know what's going to happen physically around here. But I feel like a county our size, it's been managed well, and we're doing good. And I think it's just everybody in this room. I appreciate it.
Everybody did great with their budgets this year, which helped. Everyone understood that revenue was down and people, controlled their expenses. The furloughs that everyone agreed to helped us out.
Everybody played a part, there's no doubt about it.
It was very good. And no one requested anything crazy over the top, so it all helps. CARES money to help, cannabis money to help.
Just need everybody to look at your email, and if you have any questions and going through this, be sure and contact Angie or whoever you need to. But, hopefully Monday at our meeting, we'll approve the tentative budget and get it posted on time. But don't hesitate to ask a question if you see something you don't understand.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So if this is approved, Monday, our budgets on some of the capital, improvement monies, particularly the car, do I need to what? Because last time I waited till mid-year.
Yeah, we asked you to. No, I think, as far as I'm concerned, correct me if I'm wrong, Angie, you don't have to.
Okay,
This time.
okay. Because I probably in January, I'll go ahead and order out the car.
Yeah, no, I understand. That's why
Okay.
it's nice to be able to say that.
Yes, sir, it is. It is.
It really is. So,
What is there, 108 counties in Illinois?
102.
102.
102?
Yeah.
I bet you there's 100 of them that would like to be in the condition.
We're in a good place right now, so, and it's, next year we may be in a different predicament where we may have to say we can't afford a car or we can't afford a car till the later part of the year, but we're not there, we're not
it can
there.
change overnight.
I got it, I'll make all the adjustments and put it all in the budget and send you guys the final version.
Anybody have any other questions or concerns or?
Can I make just a statement?
Sure.
I work unbelievable what work they put in. I just want to publicly comment that they were phenomenal. And I know Kent, if he'd have been well, he'd have been on a horse with them. But
I've been open and drag.
I wasn't, I was in a gator the whole time chasing them. And,
Yeah, not in my alley. Yeah, I tell you, we're really blessed with this animal control we got right now. I mean, it's nothing but good has transpired for this transition. I mean, we're really blessed. And I just hope it keeps going the way it's going.
But there's a whole lot of happy farmers down in that
Oh, yeah.
Chapel area that are very, very farmers and families. Just there were 50-some cows that were running loose for years. And
Wild.
wild,
Wild.
absolutely wild. They had become wild and had calves, and it was an amazing process.
You know, no wild cow can hurt you.
One of the people from Missouri had one of the bulls had a horned bull and actually gored one of their horses.
Angie, their radios are ordered, by the way, recorded radios.
Okay,
I did that yesterday, so.
perfect.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Commissioner Teller,
Yes.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Gould, Commissioner Pitts.